It's the middle of the COVID lockdown, and I'm sat at my desk, struggling. I'm trying to study and actually trying to be a good boy for once, but I'm hating every second of it. Just 10 minutes ago, I was on Discord with my friends, grinding away and having fun while I was doing it. But now all of a sudden, I've been forced by my parents to do this stupid math booklet right in front of me. And as I'm sitting down and I'm trying to focus, I just keep on asking myself, why are all the good habits so difficult? See, I tell you this story because I relate to the pain that you're going through so much. The pain of having all these good habits that you know you need to do, but just not doing them because they're so painful to do, right? I always knew that studying was better than video games. I always knew that I should exercise instead of eating that junk food, but I kept on just repeatedly doing the bad habits, even when I knew they were bad for me. But guess what, bro? In the past 2 years, I've lost over 15 pounds and went from being this fat Genshin Impact player to become the top student in my school and finally taking back control of my life. And so in this video, I'm gonna give you the 3 reasons why I wasn't able to do any of these good habits and how I finally overcame them to take back control of my life. And I guarantee to you that if you take action in all these 3 steps, then you will not be the same person just a few weeks from now. And the first reason why I wasn't able to do any of these good habits like studying and exercising was because I always did them to try and please daddy. And what I mean by this is that the only times I would ever do the good habits was when there was a screaming parent behind me or a teacher that was forcing me to do this work that I didn't even want to do. And what happened was that over time I made this association between the work that I needed to do and it being painful and me being miserable while doing it. Because when you don't want to do these good habits but then you're forced to do them by somebody else, that triggers these feelings of like resentment and irritation because now you're doing it because you're just somebody else's bitch and you're not actually doing it because you chose to. Like, I'll tell you a story, right? It's back in June 2022. It's the middle of summer vacation and I'm sat there on my desk like usual playing video games for hours a day. This is just a normal thing. But then I hear my dad call me down and he's pissed, bro. He yells at me about how I wasted pretty much the entire month and how I need to do these things like exercise, studying, reading. And so I go back upstairs and I like resentfully open up the math workbook and I start doing it. But you can sort of visualize, like in my head during that moment, I started hating that math. I started hating the good work even more because again, I was being forced to do it. And so the solution to this problem, which is going to sound a little bit odd, but let me just explain it, is you need to start teaching yourself and you need to start breaking this association in your mind about how these good habits are painful. And so the way I was able to solve this was I first learned this concept called instant and delayed pleasure. Instant pleasure is something that feels good right now, like eating junk food, playing video games, wasting time, right? But as soon as it's over, you just feel this sense of emptiness. You feel this sense of shame because your life got worse as a result of you doing that. And so what we need to learn to do is we need to flip this. We need to start doing delayed pleasure activities. And basically delayed pleasure is just the exact opposite of that. It's the good habits like studying, reading, exercising, meditating that feel sort of odd to do, but it actually ends up improving your life later on, right? And what I found was that as soon as I realized that these things that feel painful right now make my life better in the future, that actually made me so much more motivated to do them. Because just hear me out for a second. If you start choosing to do the good habits, you're gonna surpass pretty much everybody else right now, because right now all your friends, all the people around you are doing the instant pleasure, right? They're eating the junk food, they're wasting their time, they're vaping. And so while their life is progressively getting worse, your life is gonna get better than them. And so even if you're at a lower state right now, even if you're a little bit fat right now, even if you have these addictions that you've been struggling with, if you just start doing a few delayed pleasure activities, you're gonna surpass all of these people so quickly, right? And I am living proof of this, bro. Just a few years ago, I was literally doing all of the instantly pleasurable things, right? Like I was playing video games every day, eating junk food, watching stuff on the internet, you know? But guess what? As soon as I start doing the delayed pleasure habits, like studying, exercising, eating clean, dude, I lost 15 pounds. I became a straight A student after just a few months of doing these delayed pleasure activities, bro. And so the first step that I took to basically turn my life around was just realize that if you start doing the delayed pleasure activities and actually choose to do them consistently, bro, you're gonna beat everybody, bro. Because you might not see it now, but a few years from now, there's gonna be a huge filter in our generation. It's gonna be the majority of kids who are like the mediocre, pleasure-chasing kids who did things like video games and junk food and partied and vaped and whatever. But then there's also gonna be the small percentage of teens who started doing the delayed pleasure tasks early on, right? And so just think about it down the line. Imagine 5 years from now, there's 2 versions of you. There's one who does all the instant pleasure and one who does all the delayed pleasure. Which one do you want to be, right? Which one are you going to choose to be? If you choose to be the delayed pleasure one, bro, you're going to beat literally like 90% of guys almost effortlessly because you actually chose to do the delayed pleasure stuff. And so that's the first major mindset shift that I had, is I started viewing the work not as if I was being forced to do them, but I started instead choosing to do them because I realized that if I start doing the delayed pleasure stuff now, I'm gonna have such a better future than 90% of guys, bro. And I'm already starting to see results in just like a year and a half. And adding on to that, the second reason for why it was so difficult for me to do the good habits was because I was switching from a high pleasure activity to a low pleasure activity. What I mean by that is when you switch from something like, let's say, video games to studying, there's this huge gap between the amount of pleasure you experience, right? Because studying right now doesn't give you that much pleasure. It might give you pleasure in the future, but right now it's pretty boring. Video games, on the other hand, as soon as you log on, you get this instant hit of pleasure. You start leveling up, you get this quick XP, and you can start seeing results really quickly. And so, of course, after playing video games for like 4 hours, as soon as I started trying to study or do any good habits, it was so painful because my baseline for pleasure was up here, but studying only gave me this much pleasure. And so the solution to this problem is going to be one that you're not going to want to hear, right? 90% of the people watching this are going to click off as soon as I mention the next thing that I'm going to tell you. But if you actually take the next step that I'm about to give you, then you're going to make so much more progress faster than everybody else right now. So just hear me out. What we need to do is we need to reset our baseline pleasure so that it actually becomes enjoyable to do the studying. And what this means is that we're going to have to eliminate most of the BS instant pleasure that you're doing nowadays, right? And I can already hear you're starting to object. You're gonna say things like, oh, but actually video games improve my creativity. Oh, I'm only watching YouTube shorts for an hour a day. Shut up, bro, and just listen to me for a second. All of these bad habits are doing nothing more than numbing you from the reality that you're probably kind of a loser, right? 2 years ago, I was this loser. I had man boobs. I couldn't even do a push-up. I had mediocre grades. I didn't even have that much confidence. And so I found things like video games and junk food to give me that same amount of pleasure that I was missing out on in real life. But here's the thing, bro. When you start treating life like your own video game, when you start growing in real life instead of simply chasing that instant pleasure, you don't realize how much more fun you were missing out on life, bro. When you grind on a video game for 6 months, okay, cool. You have some XP, you get some prestige from your friends. But as soon as you stop playing that video game, all of that effort, all of that time that you put into the game was completely wasted, bro. But when you start doing the delayed pleasure stuff, that progress that you make stays with you forever. And so you have to take a second right now and just realize how stupid you're being right now. And I say this out of love because I was in your position for so long, bro. For most of my life, I was choosing the instant pleasure, right? That didn't fulfill me because nobody has ever gotten lasting happiness from bad habits. Nobody's gotten lasting happiness from playing video games for hours a day. And so you're gonna have to make up your mind right now, bro. If you're serious about regaining control of your life, then the thing that you must do was start eliminating all of the BS habits and addictions that had accumulated over the past few years. Because if you're playing video games for hours every single day, you're not going to have that drive to go out and exercise and level up. Remember, in a few years, there's going to be a big filter in our generation. There's going to be the bottom 90% of people, the people who chose the instant pleasure, right? And then there's going to be the select few people who didn't fall for the BS that we've been fed for so long about things like enjoying our teen years, eating junk food. Oh, it's okay to play an hour of video games a day, guys. The secret to all of the success that you want, whether it be you getting the top grades in your class, which I have done, you losing 15 pounds, which again, I have done, it's just getting rid of all the BS addictions that you've been forming up for the years. Now here's the plan, bro. I have full guides on this channel about things like how to quit scrolling, how to lose weight, how to actually start making progress in life. And so after this video, go and watch those full guides where I give you a step-by-step advice on how to quit these addictions that you've been stuck with for so long. And so go check those out after this video. And so now let me give you the third and most important reason for why you're not able to do any of the good habits. And this is the most important reason that if you overlook, none of the other advice in this video will help. And so let me just tell you a story to illustrate this. It's about 2 years ago and I'm in like my prime fat Genshin Impact mode. And I finally realized after so much time that I need to start working on my fitness. And so here's what I do. I tell my parents I'm going on a diet. I'm going to start exercising for an hour a day. And it's so hype, right? I'm going to actually transform my physique. I'm going to become so much more confident. I'm gonna start getting respect from other people, bro. It's gonna be so cool. And so I go on this new regimen. I'm trying to exercise for an hour a day and I cut out all of the junk food that I was eating. And I stick with this new plan for approximately 4 days. After 4 days, after seeing no results, I quit and then just start doing the bad habits again. See, the problem that I was having for so long with staying consistent on these good habits was that I was trying to do way too much of the habit. And the thing was, because I was forcing myself to do so much, like an hour of exercise a day, it shocked my brain out of its usual routine. And so I just eventually quit it. See, here's the thing, right? When you load into a new video game and you're on a new journey, you wouldn't try and beat the final level 50 boss at level 2, right? No, because you die immediately. But what most people try and do, and this is what I struggled with for so long, was I kept on trying to do that level 50 task when I was at level 3. Because I was trying to study for 2 hours a day. After a few days, sure, I time, got some XP, but because I was trying to do so much, I stayed in the cycle of trying to do the habit and then quitting and then trying again and quitting. And this is probably what your life looks like, right? You'll have this random 2-week period where you're super focused and you're actually doing the good habits. Like, you're actually studying every day, you're doing the good habits, but then all of a sudden you burn out and then you go back to where you were before. The problem that you're going through is that you're not giving your identity, you're not giving your habits enough time to form. And so when you start doing that level 50 task, you're only at level 3. And so over time, even if you do push through for a few days, you're just going to go back to where you were before. And so here's the solution that I found. What we're going to do is, instead of trying to do that level 50 studying task, do just 20 minutes, do 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Just do the bare minimum that you can possibly do and then call it a day. And while you might think, oh wait, Atharv, you're not going to make any progress when you're only doing 5 minutes of studying a day. But that's not the point of why we're doing this. We're not trying to get results yet. All we're trying to do is we're trying to build that habit. We're trying to get the reps in as many times as possible so that over time it actually becomes easier for us to do it. Because let's say you do 5 minutes of studying or 10 minutes of studying for 2 weeks consistently. You might not realize this, but that is such a huge win because you've never studied for 2 weeks consistently before. So when I started trying to take back control of my life, all I started doing was I started making my bed every day, brushing consistently, and then just doing 5 minutes of exercise and studying. And that might not seem like anything, but over time, over the course of a few weeks, that basically gave me more proof in my mind that I'm a consistent person. And so how you could use this practically is stop trying to do an hour of fucking exercise, bro. But you could probably do 5 minutes, right? That's sort of at your level. And then over time, over the course of a few weeks, as you get the reps in, it builds this new identity of you being this consistent, fit person, which then allows you to level up and then do maybe 15 minutes of exercise. And so yeah, bro, those are the 3 steps that I took to take back control of my life forever. And I promise you again, if you take the advice in this video, you will not be the same person. If you don't know me, by the way, my name's Atharv, and I help teens who are stuck in life just like me a few years ago make a comeback in life. And so yeah, bro, that's all I have for today. As always, my name's Atharv. See you soon.